On May 19th, 1977, Colleen Stan, a young girl from Eugene, Oregon, was hitchhiking to a friend's birthday party. This was in Northern California. She had done this before. This wasn't her first time hitchhiking. She had done it before, so she was being safe, turning down rides that felt unsafe, that kind of thing. But then a young couple pulled over in a blue Dodge Colt. Inside were Cameron Hooker, a clean-cut 23-year-old lumber mill worker, and his wife Janice with their infant daughter in the back seat. It felt safe. They had a baby, you know what I'm saying? So Colleen got in thinking, what's the worst that could happen? About an hour into the trip, the couple stopped at a remote gas station. This is where things get crazy. Colleen went to the restroom, and as later said, a voice told her to run, but she didn't. She got back in the car against her better judgment. A few moments later, Cameron turned off the main road, off into a secluded dirt path, pulled out a knife from under the seat of the car, and retrieved a homemade wooden head box. This was designed specifically to blind and deafen the victim. It was padded inside to muffle all the screams from the inside, obviously. And that's when he obviously put it over Colleen's head. After this, Cameron and Janice Hooker took Colleen to their home in Red Bluff, California. And what they did was not random at all. Cameron had been fantasizing for years about owning a sex slave. This dude was twisted. Janice agreed to let him abduct the woman, but only under the condition that he never have intercourse with her. Spoiler alert, he broke that promise really quickly. In their basement, they tied her to a rack, whipped her, electrocuted her, suspended her from the ceiling, from her wrists and ankles for hours, sometimes days. But it was the psychological abuse that was even more calculated and just ridiculously crazy. He constructed a coffin-sized box and forced her to live in it under their waterbed. She was allowed out only to eat, clean, and be tortured or used for sex acts. These were horrible conditions. In the summertime, she nearly died from the heat. In the wintertime, she nearly froze. Just the worst conditions that you could ever imagine. She had to defecate in a bedpan. They never let her shower. This was just the absolute worst. To ensure she didn't try to escape, Cameron invented a fictitious criminal organization called The Company. He told Colleen that the company monitored her every move and worked with law enforcement, and that if she ran, they'd kill her, her family, skin her alive. This dude fabricated documents, fake IDs, contracts. He made her sign a slave agreement, legally transferring her rights to her body to him. This was insanity. Colleen was so psychologically tortured, she just started to believe him implicitly. She began referring to herself as Kay and to Cameron as Master. Janice was ma'am. She was allowed no mirrors, no voice, no identity. For 23 hours a day, for over 7 years, Colleen lived in this wooden box under the hooker's bed. The box was 6 feet long, 3 feet wide, 2.5 feet tall, ventilated by a small hole, lined with padding to keep the sound in and locked from the outside. So this was a straight up torture chamber. She was fed scraps, was only let out to make her do chores and other twisted sick shit that they wanted her to do, and eventually R-worded. You know what that is. Janice was obviously brainwashed and complicit and participated and prayed for forgiveness after. In 1981, 4 years into her captivity, Cameron gave her a reward, a trip to visit her family, on the condition that she didn't say a word about what was happening. And she was so psychologically damaged, she didn't say a word about what was happening. She smiled in photos, hugged her mom, slept in a normal bed, and then returned to the hooker's house voluntarily. And that's how complete the brainwashing was. In 1984, Janice actually had a breakdown, and after years of guilt, she confessed everything to a pastor who urged her to call the police. It's crazy. They were actually going to church. Janice told Colleen the truth, which was the company was not real, and that she could leave. Colleen was in shock. The fear had been with her whole life. She called Cameron from a bus station to tell him she was leaving, and he simply replied, "I knew you would." So Colleen fled, but she didn't go to the police right away. She was terrified of the company, but days later, she broke down and told authorities everything. Cameron Hooker was arrested immediately, charged with kidnapping, sexual assault, and torture. He was sentenced to over 104 years in prison. Janice Hooker, in exchange for her testimony, actually received immunity. Colleen Stan refused to be labeled as a victim. Instead, she spoke out, she rebuilt her life, and she worked with trauma victims, so good on her. Cameron Hooker used pure psychological domination. He built a false world, a false narrative, and it worked completely for over 2,500 days. Colleen Stan was not only caged, but convinced that she had no other choice. And that's what chills people to this day. But at least we know that some sort of justice was served.